My father said this to me last weekend, and I haven't been able to sleep since. He just retired. 50 years of nonstop work since he was a teenager. Crawled his way up to a director level position, making well over six figures. He did everything right. I expected him to talk about his legacy, the empire he built, the battles he won. Instead, he looked at me and said he could finally do something he actually likes. Half a century, 50 years of grinding, and only now, at the finish line, does he get to enjoy his Tuesday afternoons. Sitting in that office, watching him tape up his life's work, I realized something that made my stomach drop. I'm doing the exact same thing. Which made me ask the question that millions of us are too terrified to say out loud. What the hell are we doing? When a 50-year career ends with a sigh of relief instead of a celebration, you start asking questions. How did an entire generation survive this without losing their minds? The answer is brutal but simple. They built a wall in their heads. I remember my own dad sitting me down when I was 16. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Most of your time as a man will be spent doing things you have to do, whether you enjoy it or not. So shut up and enjoy what little time you have." He wasn't trying to be cruel. He was trying to prepare me. A friend of mine heard almost the exact same speech. His dad told him, "You work to live. If you can enjoy your work, great. But ultimately, work is work. The rest of your life is the time you work in order to enjoy." This is a survival strategy. In psychology, it's called compartmentalization. You split your life into two sealed containers. Container 1, the 40 hours a week you sell to a corporation. You accept that this time is dead. It belongs to them. You are a machine component. You clock in, you execute, you clock out. Container 2, the weekend, the 48 hours where you're allowed to be human again. It sounds practical. It sounds like the mature way to handle reality. You accept that work is miserable, and you change your expectations to survive it. But then, you do the math. 5 days of misery, 2 days of freedom, 5 days of grinding to buy 2 days of living. Every single week. For 50 years straight. That's 260 days of misery to buy 104 days of freedom. And the defense mechanism that saved our parents is suffocating us. Because we can't compartmentalize anymore. We can't just turn off when we clock out. The Sunday scaries start on Saturday night. The work anxiety bleeds into every hour we're supposed to be free. We were told to accept the trade, 5 days for 2. But when you can't even enjoy the 2 days you were promised, the deal is broken, and we're still showing up. When you realize the math, 5 days of misery for 2 days of freedom, this is the rage that starts spreading. You see it in Reddit threads. You hear it in late night conversations. You feel it in your own chest at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. The deal is broken. The old survival strategy doesn't work anymore. So naturally, you start looking for an escape hatch. And that's when you hear it. From every direction. Find your passion. Do what you love. And you'll never work a day in your life. It sounds like the antidote to everything we just talked about. If the corporate ladder is soul-crushing, then just don't climb it. Find the work that makes you come alive. Follow your passion. Turn your hobby into your paycheck. Wake up excited on Monday mornings. It sounds like the perfect cure until you actually try it. Let me tell you about Sarah. Not her real name, but her story is painfully real. She spent 4 years in business school studying things she didn't care about. After graduation, she worked corporate jobs she hated: marketing coordinator, junior analyst, places where she had to ask permission to take lunch breaks. But she had a plan. Every paycheck she saved: cheap meals, no vacations, a terrible apartment with a broken heater. For 3 years, she stockpiled every dollar she could, because she had a dream she'd carried since childhood: standing on a stool in her grandmother's kitchen, watching dough rise. At 26, she finally did it. She opened her own bakery. Opening day, she unlocked the door at 6 a.m. The smell of fresh bread filled the space, and for the first time in her adult life, she woke up excited. She loved the flour on her hands, the quiet of the kitchen at dawn, seeing customers' faces light up when they tasted her sourdough. She was doing exactly what all the Instagram quotes told her to do. For 6 months, it felt like she'd escaped. And then she learned the most brutal economic truth of modern life. Society does not value the jobs that bring us joy. She works 70 hours a week. She makes half what her friends in corporate jobs make. She can't afford health insurance, one broken oven, one slow month, one unexpected expense, and she loses everything. She followed her passion. She did everything right. And now she's trapped in a different kind of prison, one where she loves the work, but lives in constant financial terror. The jobs people love tend to be the jobs society doesn't value. And here's the part that really stings. The people selling you the do what you love advice, they're making a fortune. The career coaches charging $5,000 for a passion discovery program, the universities selling six-figure art degrees, the self-help authors on their third yacht, they all profit from the myth. But the person who actually follows the advice, they're the ones who pay the price. So you stand there at 25 or 30 or 35, staring at an impossible choice. Door number 1, take the corporate job. Decent salary, benefits, stability, but you feel your soul calcifying a little more every single day. You become your father, grinding for 50 years, waiting for permission to finally enjoy a Tuesday. Door number 2, follow your passion. Wake up excited. Do work that matters to you. But spend every single night lying awake, terrified. One bad month away from losing your apartment, one medical emergency away from bankruptcy, watching your friends buy houses while you're deciding between groceries and rent. You're told to choose. Pick your poison. Corporate misery with a paycheck, or passionate poverty with a smile. And the worst part, both doors lead to a trap. One just kills you faster. There's a conversation happening in families everywhere that nobody wants to have out loud. It happens in hospital waiting rooms, in nursing home hallways, in the parking lots of pharmacies at 3 in the afternoon. It's the quiet horror of watching someone you love outlive their money. A friend of mine just went through this with her grandfather. He's 91. He did everything right. Worked 45 years as an engineer, saved diligently, retired with over $400,000. He's been in a memory care facility for 3 years now. Last month, my friend had to sit down with him, what's left of him, and try to explain where his money went. He looked at her with these completely terrified eyes and asked, "Where did it all go?" She had to look her grandfather in the eye and tell him that his wife's final year of care cost $250,000. 1 year, $250,000, gone. This is the end game that nobody talks about when you're 25 and trying to decide between passion and security. We panic about turning 30. We have quarter-life crises, but we completely ignore the reality of turning 85. Modern medicine has given us an incredible gift. We're living longer than any generation in human history, but it comes with a price tag that most people can't afford. You can save your entire life, play by every rule, sacrifice everything, and still, at the very end, you watch it all vanish. When I watched my father pack up that office, I thought he had wasted 50 years. I thought he was defeated. A cautionary tale of what not to become. But sitting in that hospital parking lot with my friend last week, watching her cry about her grandfather's empty bank account, I finally understood. My father didn't spend 50 years climbing the corporate ladder because he was brainwashed. He didn't stay in a job he tolerated because he didn't know better. He did it because he looked into the future, saw the ransom that society demands for getting old, and decided to pay it, so his family wouldn't have to. He sacrificed his passion to buy his survival, and maybe his kids, and maybe his grandkids. It's an incredibly noble sacrifice. But what happens to those of us who can't make that same trade? We're the first generation in a century that will be poorer than our parents. We're drowning in student debt. We can't afford houses. Half of us don't even have $1,000 in savings. My father's generation could make the trade. 50 years of misery in exchange for financial security at the end. But what do when you can't even afford the misery? What do you do when the corporate ladder doesn't even lead to security anymore? When you can sacrifice your entire life and still end up with nothing? What do you do when both choices lead to the same ending? And you're just choosing how you suffer along the way? So, where does that leave us? The corporate ladder doesn't guarantee security. Following your passion leads to financial terror. And even if you make all the right choices, you might still end up with nothing. The trap is real. I can't fix it. You can't fix it. This video can't fix it. But here's what I do know. Our parents survived by splitting their lives in half. 40 hours of dead time, 48 hours of living. They held their breath for 50 years, waiting for the day they could finally exhale. We cannot do that, because we might never get to exhale. So the only option left is to stop waiting for permission to start living. You have to steal your life back in the margins. You find it in the hour before the sun comes up, when the world is still quiet. You find it in the walk you take on your lunch break, instead of doom scrolling at your desk. You refuse to let the corporation own your mental energy after you clock out. You stop letting Sunday night ruin your entire weekend because you're already dreading Monday. This isn't about being grateful for scraps. This isn't toxic positivity. This is refusing to wait 50 years to earn the right to enjoy a Tuesday afternoon. My father made an incredible sacrifice so his family wouldn't have to face the financial terror of growing old alone. I respect him endlessly for it. But when I sat across from him in that office and he told me he could finally do something he likes, I realized what my actual inheritance is. A warning. He waited half a century to finally start living, and I refuse to do the same. I will still work the job. I will still save what I can. I will still try to survive the trap. But I will not wait for permission. I will not postpone my life. The system is still broken. The trap is still real. But I'm going to find every crack of light I can. And I'm going to live in those cracks.